Hello, this is Ted Argyle from Argyle Martial Arts Centre, and welcome to the second video on our Facebook page. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about how I came to become a full-time martial arts instructor, and talk a little bit about the evolution of our school, and we're going to touch a little bit on the end of the video about my teaching methodology. So I first started martial arts, as I mentioned in the last video, about 1988, 89, somewhere around that. After being a student in that system for a year or two, it was customary as an advanced student within the program to teach different people within the class. So if a lot of people rocked up for class that night, let's assume there was 20 or 25 people, then it was the responsibility of the green and brown belts and black belts to teach different people within the group. So if there was a lot of new students in the class, then I might be given that responsibility to teach them for 10 to 15, 20 minutes, half an hour sometimes. Or if kids were to turn up in the class, because back in the late 1980s there was no real separate kids program from the adults program. Everyone trained together. So it was customary that if there was kids in the class, they'd be kind of separated off, and I'd be responsible for teaching some of them. So that kind of got my feet wet as far as teaching goes, and I sort of never started out doing martial arts thinking that I could become a martial arts teacher as a career. But certainly getting my feet wet teaching those kids in the class and teaching some of the adults as well, I know that I really enjoyed it. I mean, I love my martial arts, there was no question about that. I was training like a crazy man, and I still to an extent do that because I am obsessed with the material and obsessed with doing the martial arts. But I would finish school at the end of the day, I'd be straight home, straight onto the heavy bag for an hour or so, have something to eat, go to class, doing class for an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes, and then come home and be reading martial arts magazines till midnight. And I was totally obsessed with doing it. So as far as teaching goes, though, I got my feet wet quite young. I think I was about 16 years of age when I started assisting in some of the classes. And we're only talking, a class here and there, but I really enjoyed teaching, and I enjoyed, obviously, my martial arts instruction as well. When I was about 19 years of age, so I was a martial arts student and doing this sort of little part-time thing during some classes. At about 19 years of age, my instructor at that time, Damien Martin, who was a Zendokai and Muay Thai instructor, moved to Ballarat to open up a full-time school. And he had a club here in Warrnambool, which he asked if I would be happy to take over that club, and I was like, wow, I'd love to do that. That would be awesome. So, Damien was a really big influence on me, and particularly looking at the martial arts from an intellectual standpoint. If you ever went into his house, he'd have 400 books on martial arts, and there was a real intellectual aspect to the game that he brought that I really respected and really liked, and that's something I've tried to bring to my martial arts instruction as well, is that intellectual aspect, and we'll talk about that in more detail perhaps another time. But he offered me the club, and I took it. So I was teaching, at that time he'd formulated a kids karate program, so I was teaching kids karate twice a week, Zendokai twice a week, and I was teaching Muay Thai classes twice a week as well. And I really enjoyed that. I was only 19 years of age, and but I really loved it. It was really what I was, I guess, without sounding like a bit of a wanker, it's kind of what I was destined to do, I believe anyway. Because I just know that at 19 years of age, when I got that club, I thought, wow, this is exactly what I want to do with myself. So as a consequence of that, I decided to open up another club in Hamilton. So at that time I was teaching, I'm talking, what are we talking now, probably in 1992, 1993, I was teaching 5 nights a week, 2 nights a week in Hamilton, 2 nights a week in Warrnambool, and also taught 1 to 2 days a week, so perhaps one evening and some classes during the day as well at home. So I was teaching, had a few private students at that point. I was teaching just from my garage at home. So in about 1996, it wasn't about 1996, it was 1996, I decided to open up Adrenaline Martial Arts Centre full-time. For no other reason other than, I'd had some competitive Muay Thai fights, and we'd go into schools, myself and my training partners and my Muay Thai coach at that time. We'd go into these full-time martial arts schools in in Melbourne for weigh-ins and to do perhaps a little bit of training before the event, and I'd just be blown away with the facilities that our friends had in Melbourne. They were just unbelievable, and I thought, wow, wouldn't it be cool to be able to teach every night from a facility like this? That would be a dream for me. So at about 1996, I decided to bite the bullet and do it. I looked at leases and I looked at buildings, and I settled upon a building that we liked, and I basically opened the doors. Before that, of course, technically speaking, I was on unemployment benefits, so I was on the dole, but I was teaching part-time. That's our little secret, don't tell anybody else, but I was generating a little bit of cash on the side through my martial arts instruction, which wasn't a lot, to be honest. I mean, it was minimal, but it certainly helped, and so I was doing that, plus I was on the dole, and as a consequence of being unemployed, you could do, if you had a business idea, you could do what's called the NICE scheme. And I'm pretty sure that system still runs today. And basically how it works, it's designed to get you off unemployment benefits by putting you through a 6-week business course. So that it's been proven time and time again that if you do business training before you start a business, your business has more chance of succeeding. And that's certainly true. So we learnt the basics of money management and marketing and how to customer service and all these different sorts of aspects of business. So I did that course for 6 weeks, generated a business plan, and opened the doors. When I first started Adrenaline Martial Arts in 1996, which is about 19 years ago now, so next year will be our 20th year, which will be exciting. I started initially teaching the systems that I was teaching already. So I was teaching Muay Thai, I was teaching Zendo Kai. Excuse me. We started teaching boxing classes when Jamie had walked into our school about a year after I was there. We also had martial arts weaponry, so my limited knowledge at that point of martial arts weaponry was actually put into a separate class as well. And we had separate classes for the kids and for the adults, which I'm pretty sure I was the only person in Warrnambool doing that. This is like nearly 20 years ago now. So that was pretty interesting and exciting. So it was a very exciting time. This is back in 1996. It was kind of like all my dreams had come true at the young age of 23. Not really being aware that I had no freaking idea what I was doing, either from a business standpoint, from a martial arts standpoint, from an instructor standpoint, from a customer service standpoint. I had pretty much no idea what I was doing. I'm sure that some people probably wouldn't realise that was the case back then, because the martial arts as a full-time occupation just wasn't done, especially in this area. So I think I was able to fudge people just by the enthusiasm that I had for my teaching and my training. And I floundered around for a long time trying to figure out what to do and how to do it, to be honest. As I said, I initially started out as a Zendo Kai school, and then after a couple of years of doing that, I found that the direction I wanted to move and the direction that the Zendo Kai organisation wanted me to move were becoming separate. And I had lots of respect for the Zendo Kai system and the people who are attached to that system. I love them to death, and I still respect them a lot, and I still learn a lot from them when I connect with them, and I still have a lot of friends who are involved in that system. But the system itself was evolving in a different way to what I was evolving. So I decided at 26 or 27 years of age to leave the Zendo Kai system and start my own system, which in hindsight was a pretty freaking arrogant thing to do. He's a kid who's only been training for about 11 years, decides to go off and teach his own system, which wasn't kind of the done thing, and I may have burnt a few bridges doing that. But I wasn't mature enough to understand that wasn't, that's not the way you do things. So in hindsight, what can I say? That's what I did, and I certainly wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't have done that. And I certainly wouldn't be the martial artist I am today if I hadn't have had those Zendo Kai experiences as well. The Zendo Kai organisation was a great organisation. I had some great instructors, great teachers, great mentors as well. But I did feel as if I needed to move in a different direction at quite a young age. So that's why I did that. So I kind of floundered around for about 5 to 6 years after that to kind of find my feet and figure out how I was going to run the school, how I was going to teach, and what exactly I was going to teach as well. So it kind of brought me to where we are now, and I've been teaching the systems that I teach now for about 10 years. in the way that I teach them now as well. Not so much, I mean, what we teach now is, you know, some of the things I've taught right from the word go, and some of the things that I teach now I've been doing since I was 15 years of age. And there's a lot of things, of course, that I've learned over the last few years that we didn't do, obviously, years ago. So the systems have evolved, but they've evolved into the 4 aspects of training that we talked about in the previous video. So we have our striking component, which is 80% Muay Thai, 20% other martial arts. We have our Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu component, which is all the ground fighting, the wrestling and all that kind of thing. We teach the Filipino martial arts, but the Filipino martial arts aspect is more of the weapons than the empty hand. We teach a little bit of the empty hand stuff within the striking components of our program, but it's mainly the weapons that we pull from the Filipino martial arts. And we also have the self-defense component. I guess the unique thing about these 4 different components is they're not taught or graded as 4 different systems. So I've kind of formulated the system and formulated the school so that people have the ability to chop and change between those systems as they see fit. So if they want to do a little bit of Jiu-Jitsu and a lot of Muay Thai, they have that opportunity. If they want to do a little bit of weaponry, a little bit of self-defense and a lot of Muay Thai, they certainly have that opportunity. People have the ability to chop and change with their training. So if they want to specialise, they can certainly do that. We have a lot of students here who just specialise in Jiu-Jitsu. They don't really do much stand-up. Vice versa, we have people who just specialise in stand-up or just self-defense. So if you have an area of interest that you want to specialise in, then you have the ability to do that within our school and within our program. And if you want to generalise and cover a lot of different bases, you can certainly do that too. And that's, I think, the most unique thing about our school from a curriculum perspective. There's other unique aspects of our school which we'll get into in later videos, but probably the most unique part is we have the ability to chop and change between those systems, and nobody's belt level changes or anything like that. So it's not like you're a belt in this system and a belt in that system and a level in this system and a level in that system. I've tried to formulate the curriculum so that people have the ability to move between all 4 systems, and they'll still be graded as well. Which is actually, it's taken me a long time to figure out how to do that. And you know, I have experimented with having different systems, so having, you know, everybody graded through separately at Muay Thai, everyone graded through separately through this and separately through that. But I just found that it created a lot of friction between the systems and between the students. This way, everybody's training in the same school, everybody's training within the same system. It's just you're either gravitating to Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, self-defense, or the Filipino martial arts, or any combination of. That's how it basically works. In later videos, we'll discuss in more detail exactly how we formulate that system, so it's a bit more clear. But I just wanted to give you an overview of how our programs kind of work and what we teach. To finish the video, I think we're going to have to do another video because this is starting to stretch out time-wise, but I think we're going to do another video specifically on my teaching methodology because there's a lot of parts to that. But I just want to give you a brief introduction into that, and just to basically say that my teaching methodology is very simple. I teach kids how I would want someone to teach my kids. So if I had children and someone was teaching them to play tennis or to play anything, how I would want them to be taught is how I teach other people's kids. As far as adults and teenagers, I teach them the same way that I would want to be taught. So that's kind of the very basic nuts and bolts of how I teach. So I teach how I would want to be taught. So I don't want someone yelling at me, and if I had kids, I wouldn't want someone yelling and screaming at my kids and telling them to toe the line and doing this and doing that. I basically teach how I want to be taught, and I teach kids how I want someone to teach my kids. But I think in the next video we'll get into a little bit more detail with that, because there's quite a few components to my teaching methodology, and it is very different from most of the martial arts teachers around. So we'll get into that more detail in the next video, and I look forward to talking to you then. Thank you.